Lisa was having one of those busy Tuesday afternoons when everything seemed to go wrong. Her presentation at work had crashed. Her car made that weird noise again. And now she was running late for her doctor's appointment. She really didn't want to get a flu shot, but her company required it for all employees. The medical center looked different today. Usually, the place was packed with people. But today it felt almost empty. The main reception area was closed, and a handwritten sign directed patients to use the side entrance. Lisa thought it was odd, but she was already late, so she didn't question it. Walking through the side corridor, she noticed how quiet everything was. The usual sounds of a busy clinic, phones ringing, people talking, machines beeping, were completely absent. The hallway seemed longer than she remembered, with unfamiliar doors and rooms she'd never seen before. The lighting was dimmer too, giving everything a strange, cold feeling. When she finally found the right room, Lisa knocked and waited. A tall woman opened the door, and Lisa immediately felt something was off about her. The woman was beautiful, in an unusual way, with skin that seemed almost too perfect and eyes that were larger than normal. Her movements were smooth, like she was floating instead of walking. "You must be Lisa," the woman said in a voice that had a strange accent. Lisa couldn't place. "I'm your nurse today. Please, come in and have a seat." Lisa sat down on the examination table, and the nurse moved around the room with those same fluid movements. Everything about her seemed perfect, too controlled. She barely blinked, and when she did, it was like she had to remind herself to do it. "So, you're here for your vaccination," the nurse said, but it sounded more like a statement than a question. "Yes, just the regular flu shot," Lisa replied, watching as the nurse went to a cabinet she hadn't noticed before. It was different from the usual medical cabinets. This one had several locks and seemed to be made of some kind of metal that reflected light in an unusual way. The nurse opened the cabinet with a key that looked more like a small electronic device. Inside, Lisa could see several vials, but they didn't look like the normal vaccines she'd seen before. Instead of being clear or slightly cloudy, these contained liquids of different colors, some blue, some green, and one that seemed to glow slightly. "Is that the flu vaccine?" Lisa asked, feeling increasingly uncomfortable. The nurse paused for what felt like a very long time. She stood completely still, holding a vial of blue liquid that definitely wasn't like any vaccine Lisa had ever seen. The liquid seemed to move on its own, swirling slowly even though the vial wasn't being shaken. "This is what you need," the nurse finally said, drawing the strange blue substance into a syringe. Lisa started to protest, but before she could get the words out, the nurse moved incredibly fast. One moment she was across the room, and the next, she was right next to Lisa, inserting the needle into her arm with precision that felt almost mechanical. The moment the liquid entered her bloodstream, Lisa knew something was terribly wrong. Instead of the slight sting she expected from a normal shot, she felt a cold sensation that spread up her arm and into her chest. It wasn't painful, but it was completely unlike anything she'd ever experienced. The cold feeling seemed to move through her body with purpose, like it was searching for something. What was in that shot? Lisa demanded, starting to stand up from the table, but the nurse had already moved to the door. Lisa heard the distinct sound of a lock clicking, and when she tried the handle, it wouldn't turn. They were locked in together. "What's going on? Why did you lock the door?" Lisa's voice was getting louder, but the nurse remained calm. The woman turned around, and for the first time, Lisa got a really good look at her eyes. They weren't just large. They reflected light in a way that human eyes shouldn't. When the light hit them at a certain angle, they almost seemed to glow. "No one can know about this," the nurse said, her voice completely different now. Before, she had tried to sound warm and professional. Now her voice was flat, emotionless, like she was reading from a script. Lisa felt panic rising in her chest, but it mixed with something else. The strange cold sensation from the shot was doing something to her mind. Her thoughts felt clearer, sharper, but also different somehow. She could hear sounds she hadn't noticed before. Conversations happening in other parts of the building, the hum of electrical equipment, even what sounded like her own heartbeat. "What did you give me?" Lisa asked again, but this time she noticed something incredible. She could sense the nurse's emotions, as if they were her own: fear, urgency, and something else, regret. The nurse looked at her with those strange, reflecting eyes and said something that made Lisa's blood run cold. "You weren't supposed to be here today. The shot was meant for someone else, someone who was prepared for it. But now that you've received it, everything has changed." Lisa's vision began to shift. Colors became more vivid, and she could see details in the room that she had missed before. She noticed that the medical equipment wasn't quite right. The monitors had displays she didn't recognize, and there were instruments that looked like nothing she'd ever seen in a doctor's office. "Who are you?" Lisa whispered, though somehow she was beginning to suspect the answer would be something she wasn't ready to hear. The nurse moved closer, and Lisa could see that her skin had a quality that wasn't quite human. It was too smooth, too perfect, and seemed to have a faint luminescence that became more apparent in the dim lighting. "I am someone who made a mistake today," the nurse said, "and now both of our lives are about to change forever." Outside the locked room, Lisa could hear footsteps in the hallway, several people moving quickly and speaking in hushed, urgent tones. Whatever was happening, other people were involved, and they were coming. Lisa looked at the locked door, then at the strange nurse, then at her own arm where the injection site was beginning to glow. With the same faint light she'd seen in the vial, she realized that her normal, boring Tuesday had just become the most important day of her life, and she had no idea what was coming next. Lisa's head was spinning, but not in the way she expected. Instead of feeling sick or dizzy, everything around her became incredibly clear. She could see tiny scratches on the metal cabinet that she hadn't noticed before. She could hear the nurse's breathing, which sounded different from normal human breathing, too steady, too controlled. "Please, sit down," the nurse said, but her voice had changed again. Now it sounded almost worried. "I need to explain what just happened, and you're not going to like what I have to tell you." Lisa remained standing, her back against the locked door. "Start talking, and don't lie to me, because somehow I think I'll know if you do." The nurse looked surprised at that comment. "You're already feeling the effects, aren't you? The enhanced awareness, the ability to sense things you couldn't before. What did you put in me?" Lisa demanded, though part of her was fascinated by how much better she could see and hear everything around her. The nurse took a deep breath, or what looked like a deep breath. That injection was called Project Synthesis. It's an experimental treatment that was supposed to go to a volunteer named Linda Chen. She's been preparing for this for months. But when I saw your name on the appointment list, I mixed up the files. Preparing. For what exactly? To see if humans can handle enhanced abilities. To see if your minds can process information the way other species do. Lisa felt her heart rate increase, but strangely, she could actually feel it happening in a way she never had before. "Other species? What are you talking about?" The nurse walked over to the strange cabinet and touched something on its surface. The metal seemed to respond to her touch, revealing symbols that definitely weren't English or any language Lisa recognized. "My name isn't really important, but you can call me Kay. I work for a program that's been running for over 50 years. We study how humans might react to contact with visitors from other places." "Visitors from where?" Lisa asked, though she was beginning to suspect the answer. "Other worlds, other star systems. They've been watching Earth for a very long time, and recently they've decided it might be time for more direct contact." Lisa laughed, but it sounded strange even to her own ears. "Are you telling me you're an alien? This is insane." Kay looked at her with those unusual eyes. "I'm not exactly an alien. I'm what you might call a hybrid. My mother was human, but my father was from somewhere else. There are many of us working in hospitals, government offices, research facilities. We're here to help both sides understand each other." As Kay spoke, Lisa realized she could sense something from her: emotions, thoughts, feelings that weren't her own. It was like having a radio in her head that was slowly tuning into a news station. "This is impossible," Lisa whispered, but even as she said it, she could feel that Kay was telling the truth. The injection you received was designed to temporarily give humans some of the abilities that hybrids like me have naturally: enhanced senses, improved awareness, and the ability to connect with non-human consciousness. Lisa's vision sharpened even more. She could now see that Kay's skin had a very faint pattern to it, almost like scales but much more subtle. Her eyes definitely reflected light in a way that wasn't human, and when she moved, it was with a grace that seemed almost too perfect. How long will this last? Lisa asked. For most people, about 72 hours. But you're experiencing it much faster and stronger than we expected, usually. Volunteers go through weeks of preparation to handle even a small dose. Suddenly, Lisa could hear voices in the hallway getting closer. But more than that, she could somehow sense their emotions: urgency, concern, fear. Multiple people were approaching, and they were not happy. "They're coming," Kay said. Also hearing the footsteps, "My supervisors. They monitor all uses of the serum, and they know something went wrong. What happens when they get here?" Kay's expression became very serious. "They'll want to fix this situation. Usually that means erasing memories or other solutions." The footsteps stopped right outside the door. Lisa heard the sound of electronic beeping, like someone was entering a code into a lock. "Listen to me carefully," Kay whispered urgently. "The abilities you're gaining aren't just temporary side effects. The serum is designed to awaken parts of human consciousness that have been dormant for thousands of years. Your ancestors had these abilities once, but they were suppressed. Suppressed by who? The same visitors who are preparing for contact. They've been slowly changing human development for centuries, making your species less aware, less connected to each other and to the universe around you. But some of us think that was wrong." The door began to open, and Lisa could see figures in the hallway, people in white coats and others in dark suits. "Why are you telling me this?" Lisa asked quickly. Kay looked directly into her eyes. "Because I think you might be special. The serum is affecting you faster than anyone we've ever seen. Your mind is adapting to these abilities in a way that suggests you have stronger natural potential than most humans." A man in a white coat entered the room, followed by two others. Lisa could immediately sense their emotions, and what she felt from them scared her. They weren't just concerned about a medical mistake. They were afraid of her specifically. "Dr. K," the man said sternly, "we have a Code 7 situation here." "I know, Dr. Webb. It was an accident. Accidents of this magnitude require immediate containment," one of the suited men said, looking directly at Lisa. "The subject needs to be processed according to Protocol 15. Lisa didn't know what Protocol 15 was, but she could sense from everyone in the room that it wasn't something good. The fear she felt from Kay increased dramatically. "There might be another option," Kay said carefully. "She's showing unusual adaptation rates. Perhaps she could be considered for the integration program instead." Dr. Webb looked at Lisa with what seemed like scientific curiosity. "Interesting. What level of enhancement is she experiencing?" As if to demonstrate, Lisa found herself saying, "You're all scared of something bigger than just me getting the wrong shot. There's something else happening, something you weren't expecting." The room went completely silent. Everyone stared at her. How could she know that? Dr. Webb whispered. Lisa realized that somehow she had picked up thoughts and feelings from all of them at once. And what she sensed made her stomach turn. They weren't just studying human-alien contact. They were preparing for something much larger and more frightening than she could have imagined. Dr. Webb stepped closer to Lisa, studying her like she was a fascinating puzzle. "Miss Rodriguez, I need you to understand that what happened today was completely unplanned. We have protocols in place to prevent exactly this kind of situation." Lisa could sense his emotions clearly now, a mixture of scientific excitement and genuine worry. But underneath that, she felt something else from him, fear of his superiors, fear of consequences he couldn't control. "What exactly is Protocol 15? Lisa asked, though part of her already suspected she didn't want to know the answer. One of the suited men stepped forward. He was tall, thin, and moved with the same unusual grace that Kay had. Protocol 15 involves memory modification. We can remove the last several hours from your mind completely. You would wake up believing you had a normal flu shot and went home. And if I refuse? Then we move to the integration program, Dr. Webb said. But that's a much bigger commitment. It would mean joining our team permanently, learning about our work, becoming part of something much larger than yourself. Lisa looked around the room at all these people staring at her, and she realized something important. Her enhanced senses were picking up details she wouldn't normally notice. The second suited man had the same subtle skin pattern as Kay. The way Dr. Webb's eyes reflected light wasn't quite human either. Even some of the medical equipment in the room hummed at frequencies. That seemed wrong. How many of you are actually human? She asked suddenly. The room fell silent again. Kay looked nervous. Dr. Webb looked surprised, and the suited men exchanged glances that seemed to communicate without words. That's a very perceptive question. Dr. Webb finally said, the integration program has been running for decades. We have team members from various backgrounds working together. Various backgrounds. Lisa repeated, you mean various planets? Lisa, please try to stay calm, Kay said softly. I know this is a lot to process, but you're handling it better than most people would. Through her connection with Kay, Lisa suddenly got a flash of images and feelings that weren't her own. She saw Kay as a child, growing up in a facility much like this one. She felt Kay's loneliness, being different from both humans and her father's people. She experienced Kay's training, learning to blend in, to help with something called the preparation. The preparation for what? Lisa asked aloud. Everyone in the room tensed up. Apparently, she had just asked something she wasn't supposed to know about. Dr. Webb moved to a control panel on the wall and pressed several buttons immediately. A soft humming sound filled the room, and Lisa felt something trying to press against her mind, like someone trying to push through a door. What is that? She demanded. Just a mild calming field, Dr. Webb said. But Lisa could sense he was lying. It will help you think more clearly instead of feeling calmer. Lisa felt her abilities growing stronger. The pressure against her mind seemed to wake up something that had been sleeping inside her. Consciousness. Suddenly, she could sense not just the emotions of everyone in the room, but glimpses of their actual thoughts from Dr. Webb. She caught fragments, stronger than expected. Timeline moved up. They won't be pleased. From the first suited man, containment failure. Report to the council. Possible resistance candidate from the second suited man. Something that chilled her. If she can't be controlled, permanent solution may be necessary. You're trying to read my mind, aren't you? Lisa said to Dr. Webb. That machine isn't trying to calm me down. It's trying to get inside my head. Dr. Webb stopped what he was doing and looked at her with what seemed like genuine respect. Remarkable. Most humans can't resist the neural interface at all, even with the serum enhancement. I want to know what's really going on here, Lisa said, feeling strength building inside her that she'd never experienced before. No more lies, no more half-truths. What is the preparation? And why are you so scared of your supervisors? Kay looked at Dr. Webb, who nodded slightly. The visitors have been planning to make open contact with humanity, Kay began. But not the kind of contact most people imagine. They want to change how humans think, how you see reality. They believe your species needs guidance to survive and grow. Change how we think. The serum you received is designed to make human consciousness more compatible with theirs, more accepting of their ideas, their way of organizing society. Over the past 50 years, they've been slowly introducing these changes through various programs. Lisa felt sick, but it wasn't from the serum. You're talking about mind control. We prefer to call it consciousness evolution, Dr. Webb said. Humanity has been isolated for too long. Your species has developed in ways that make cooperation with other civilizations difficult. So you're going to force us to cooperate? The second suited man stepped forward. The decision has already been made at levels far above this facility. The only question now is whether you're going to help us, or whether we need to consider you a security risk. Through her enhanced senses, Lisa could feel the threat in his words. These people, or beings, have been planning this for decades. They had infiltrated human society at every level, and now she had stumbled into their secret world completely by accident. What if I choose neither option? Lisa asked. What if I just want to leave and forget this ever happened? Dr. Webb shook his head sadly. I'm afraid that's no longer possible. The serum has changed you permanently, even if we could erase your memories. Your enhanced abilities would eventually return, and when they did, you'd start asking questions we can't let you ask. Lisa looked at Kay, hoping to sense some kind of support or alliance. But what she felt from her was complicated, sympathy mixed with loyalty to the program, hope mixed with resignation. So my choices are, lose my memory, join your program, or we classify you as a containment failure, the first suited man said coldly. And containment failures are handled according to very specific protocols. Lisa realized that her normal, boring life was truly over. Whatever happened next, she would never be the same person who had walked into this medical center just a few hours ago. The question now was whether she would survive long enough to figure out how to fight back against what they were planning for the rest of humanity. Lisa stood in that small room, surrounded by people who weren't entirely human, feeling trapped and helpless, but something inside her was changing. The serum wasn't just giving her enhanced senses. It was awakening something that felt ancient and powerful. I need a minute to think about this, she said, trying to buy time while she figured out what to do. Dr. Webb nodded to the suited men, and they began setting up more equipment around the room. Lisa could see strange devices that definitely weren't normal medical instruments. One of them started glowing with the same blue light as the serum that had been injected into her. The neural stabilizer will help you make a clearer decision, Dr. Webb explained. But Lisa could sense his real thoughts. The machine was designed to make her more compliant, more willing to accept whatever they wanted her to do. As the device powered up, Lisa felt a strange tingling in her arms and legs. But instead of feeling weaker or more confused, she felt stronger. Her body was somehow absorbing the energy from their machine and turning it into something else. Kay noticed what was happening first. Dr. Webb, her biosignature is changing. The stabilizer isn't working the way it should. Lisa looked down at her hands and gasped. Her skin was glowing with the same faint light she'd seen in Kay's skin, but brighter, and she felt incredibly strong, like she could lift the heavy examination table without any effort. Shut it down, Dr. Webb ordered, but it was too late. Lisa didn't even think about what she was doing next. She just moved. One moment she was standing by the door, and the next she was across the room, having moved faster than any normal human could. The suited men reached for something in their jackets, but Lisa was already there. She grabbed the first man's wrist, and he cried out in surprise. Through her touch, she could see his memories, flashes of other facilities like this one, other humans who had been processed, and something much worse. She saw images of entire cities where people moved like robots, their eyes empty, their minds controlled. This is what you're planning for everyone, she whispered, horrified by what she'd seen. The second suited man pulled out a device that looked like a small gun. But before he could use it, Lisa moved again. This time she grabbed the neural stabilizer and somehow understood exactly how it worked. She twisted something on its side, and instead of trying to control her mind, it started broadcasting her thoughts to everyone in the room. Suddenly, Dr. Webb, Kay, and both suited men were experiencing Lisa's memories, her normal, human life, her hopes and dreams, her love for her family and friends. They felt her horror at discovering their plan, her determination to protect the people she cared about. Kay stumbled backward, tears streaming down her face. I forgot, she whispered. I forgot what it was like to be truly human, to care about individual people instead of just the bigger plan. Dr. Webb was clutching his head, overwhelmed by the intensity of Lisa's emotions. The suited men were trying to shut down the device, but Lisa's enhanced abilities were keeping it running. In the chaos, Lisa saw her chance. She ran to the door, and somehow she knew exactly how to work the electronic lock. Her enhanced mind understood the technology instinctively. The door slid open, and she ran into the hallway. The building was bigger than she'd thought, with corridors that seemed to go on forever. But her new abilities guided her toward an exit. She could sense the emotions of other people in the building, researchers, security guards, and others who felt the same mixture of fear and guilt that she'd sensed from Dr. Webb. Behind her, she could hear alarms going off and people shouting. They were coming after her, but she was moving faster than she'd ever moved in her life. She burst through an emergency exit and found herself in a parking garage. For a moment, she thought about taking her car, but then she realized they would be tracking it. Instead, she started running through the city streets, her enhanced senses guiding her away from the medical center. After what felt like hours but was probably only minutes, Lisa found herself in an old part of town she'd never seen before. She was standing in front of an abandoned warehouse, but something told her this wasn't really abandoned at all. Kay's voice came from behind her. "Lisa, wait." She turned around, ready to run again. But Kay was alone and looked different somehow. The coldness was gone from her eyes, replaced by something that looked almost human. "I'm not here to bring you back," Kay said quickly. "What? You showed us back there, your memories, your feelings. It reminded me of something I'd lost, something they train us to forget." "What are you talking about?" Kay walked closer, moving carefully so Lisa wouldn't run. "I remember what it was like to care about individual people instead of just following orders. And I realized that what we're doing is wrong." She pulled a small device from her pocket, the same kind of electronic key she'd used to open the cabinet earlier. "This will get you into that warehouse. There are others inside, people like Dr. Rodriguez who used to work for the program but got away. They've been trying to stop what's happening, but they need someone with your abilities." Dr. Rodriguez, she was one of the original scientists who developed the serum. But when she realized what they really planned to do with it, she tried to destroy her research. They said she was killed in an accident, but really she escaped. Lisa took the device, but she was still suspicious. "How do I know this isn't another trap?" Kay smiled, and for the first time, she looked genuinely human. "Because I'm coming with you. What you showed me back there made me remember that I'm half human too, and that half of me wants to protect humanity, not control it." She handed Lisa another device, this one smaller and different looking. "This contains everything I know about the program, locations of other facilities, names of people who are involved, and most importantly, their timeline for the mass consciousness modification. How long do we have? 6 weeks. They're planning to introduce the serum into the water supply of major cities, starting with New York and Los Angeles. But with your abilities and Dr. Rodriguez's knowledge, we might be able to stop them." Lisa looked at the warehouse, then back at Kay. Everything about this situation was impossible, but she knew she didn't have a choice. Her normal life was over, but maybe she could help save everyone else's normal life. "What makes you think I can do this?" Lisa asked. "Because in all our years of testing, we've never seen anyone adapt to the serum the way you have. Most people need weeks of preparation just to handle a small dose. You took a full dose, and instead of being overwhelmed, you turned it into something stronger. You might be the key to developing a way to reverse what they've already done." Lisa used the device to open the warehouse door. Inside, she could see lights and hear voices, other people who had escaped from the program and were fighting back. "Are you ready to save the world?" Kay asked with a smile that was both sad and hopeful. Lisa took a deep breath and stepped into the warehouse, knowing that whatever happened next would determine the future of human consciousness itself. Inside the warehouse, Lisa found herself in what looked like a secret laboratory mixed with a command center. Computer screens showed maps of cities around the world, and she could see red dots marking locations that made her stomach sink. There were hundreds of them. "Each red dot is a facility like the one you escaped from," said a woman with gray hair who approached them. She looked tired but determined. "I'm Dr. Rodriguez. Kay told me about you through our communication system." Lisa stared at the screens. "There are so many of them. They've been building this network for 50 years. But in the last 6 months, something changed. They accelerated everything. We think they're running out of time for some reason. Kay nodded grimly. The original timeline was 20 years, but recently, orders came down to complete the consciousness modification project. Within 2 months, everyone at the facility was confused by the sudden rush. Dr. Rodriguez led them deeper into the warehouse, where Lisa saw other people working frantically on various projects. Some looked like scientists, others like regular people who had somehow gotten involved in this impossible situation. The good news is that your escape caused more damage than you realize, Dr. Rodriguez explained. When you turned the neural stabilizer into a broadcasting device, it didn't just affect the people in that room. The signal went out to every facility connected to their network. What do you mean? Hundreds of workers in their program suddenly experienced what you experienced, real human emotions, genuine care for individual people instead of abstract goals. About 30% of their hybrid workforce has gone offline. They're either hiding or actively working against the program. Now, Lisa felt a surge of hope, but Dr. Rodriguez's expression remained serious, unfortunately. This has made them desperate. Instead of waiting to introduce the serum gradually through medical programs, they've decided to go with their emergency plan. She pointed to a large screen showing a building that Lisa recognized. It was the convention center, our downtown, where her company sometimes held meetings. Tomorrow, there's a health summit where leaders from 50 major cities will be meeting to discuss public health initiatives. They plan to introduce the consciousness modification serum into the air conditioning system. Everyone at that summit will be exposed, including mayors, health officials, and media representatives. Once those people are affected, they'll go back to their cities and implement the program everywhere, Kay added. It would spread to millions of people within weeks. Lisa felt overwhelmed. How can we possibly stop something that big? Dr. Rodriguez smiled for the first time since Lisa had met her. Because you've already proven that the serum can be turned into something else. Instead of making people more compliant, your unique brain chemistry turned it into something that enhances natural human abilities while keeping free will intact. She led Lisa to a laboratory section where several people were working with equipment that looked similar to what she'd seen at the medical center. We've been studying the samples Kay brought us of your modified serum. If we can replicate what happened in your system, we can create an antidote, something that not only protects people from consciousness modification, but actually makes them more aware of mental manipulation. You want to give people enhanced abilities? Not exactly enhanced abilities, but enhanced resistance to control. Think of it as a vaccine for the mind. Over the next several hours, Lisa worked with Dr. Rodriguez and the team to understand exactly what had happened to her. They discovered that her brain had a rare genetic marker that allowed her to process the alien consciousness modification technology differently than other humans. About 1 in 10,000 people have this marker, Dr. Rodriguez explained. Throughout history, these people have been the ones who resist propaganda, who question authority, who see through deception. They've always been humanity's natural defense against mental control. So I'm not the only one. You're not the only one with the potential. But you're the first one we've seen who has been fully activated by the serum. That makes you incredibly important. As they worked, Lisa learned more about the true scope of the program. The consciousness modification wasn't just about control. It was about preparing humanity for integration into a larger galactic society where individual free will was considered dangerous and primitive. They genuinely believe they're helping us, Kay explained during a break, in their society. Everyone thinks and acts as part of a collective consciousness. They see human independence and individuality as a form of mental illness that needs to be cured. But you don't agree with that anymore? Kay looked at her with eyes that now seemed completely human. After experiencing your memories, I realized that what they call mental illness might actually be humanity's greatest strength. Your ability to think independently, to care about individual people even when it's not logical, to create art and music and stories just because you want to. That's not a flaw. That's beautiful. The night before the health summit, the team had successfully created enough antidote to protect the people at the meeting. but they faced a new problem. How to get it into the building without being caught. I'll do it, Lisa said. My abilities are still growing stronger. I can sense their people from a distance now, and I can move fast enough to avoid their security. Dr. Rodriguez looked worried. It's extremely dangerous if they capture you. They'll study what makes you different and find a way to prevent other people from developing resistance. But if I don't try, millions of people will lose their free will forever. Lisa spent the early morning hours preparing for what might be the most important mission in human history. She would have to infiltrate the convention center, replace their consciousness modification serum with the antidote, and escape before anyone realized what had happened. As she prepared to leave, Kay stopped her. I want you to know something, Kay said. What happened to you wasn't really an accident. I've been questioning the program for months, and when I saw your appointment, something inside me made me hope that you might be someone special. I didn't consciously plan to give you the wrong injection, but maybe part of me wanted it to happen. Lisa smiled. So you're saying my horrible day was actually the best thing that ever happened to humanity? I think it might be. Hours later, Lisa stood on the roof of a building across from the convention center, watching as important people from around the world entered the building. She knew that in a few hours, they would either walk out as free-thinking individuals, ready to resist the consciousness modification program, or as controlled agents ready to implement it worldwide. She thought about her normal, boring life just 2 days ago, worried about work presentations and car repairs. Now she was about to attempt something that would determine the future of human consciousness. But as she prepared to use her enhanced abilities to save the world, Lisa realized something important. She wasn't doing this as some kind of superhero with special powers. She was doing it as a human being who cared about other human beings. Her greatest strength wasn't the serum or her enhanced abilities. It was her determination to protect the people she loved and the strangers she'd never met. Taking a deep breath, Lisa leaped from the building and began the most important mission of her life. Knowing that win or lose, she had discovered who she really was and what she was capable of when it mattered most.